Hey there! Welcome to Exposing the Hidden Reality. I'm Annette, career reinvention coach and caffeine-powered human.
And I'm Sandra, women's life and leadership coach. I bring the woo to our conversations.
And this is the podcast where we call out all the unspoken stuff, biases, outdated expectations, and all the things women navigate in work and in life.
Yes. We bring to light what we see happening. Smart, capable women stuck in the same patterns because no one really talks about what's going on.
We'll bring some difficult truths.
Welcome, insightful experts.
And sprinkle in a little chaos and fun.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't, right?
True.
So whether you're walking the dog or tuning in during your commute, we're glad you're here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. You want to do the let's do this together? Like 3, 2, 1, let's do this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's
do this.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. We have a very special guest today, Dr. Sheri Lake. And Doctor, please take a few minutes, introduce yourself to the audience, and tell us something fun about you.
So, hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sheri Lake. I am a scholar turned angel communicator. I have been a communication expert for over 26 years, and now I bridge communication between people and the divine. I live in the country in a very small town, so I have a collection of stray animals that I care for very nicely. I have like 6 cats and 2 dogs, which is crazy. So people talk about the crazy cat lady. That would be me. But everyone gets along. Because of my background, I know how to train them, and we all get along famously. And I enjoy hiking and being outdoors in nature. That's where I connect with spirit and my higher self.
Okay, so now I have this really important question to ask you. And I think Annette and I might have actually been talking about this the other day. Have you trained your dog to use those little talk pads, like treat, treat, treat?
I have not, because true confession, don't want to know what they have to say to me.
Yes!
I don't. Like, if they would say like, oh my gosh, you're lame or something like that, I'd be mortified. So no, I don't. We have our nice little thing going. I'm going to keep it as is.
Oh my gosh, I want to do it so bad, but I'm the one that doesn't have the discipline. I'm sure my dog would catch on, and I don't think I'd be able to do it. So I have an unused box of the buttons just sitting in my closet. If
I tried that, my dogs would be swearing on a regular basis. Their language would be so foul, and I don't know that I want to go there. But now I'm feeling inspired. So who knows?
If you do it, you have 2 new followers. We're all over it.
Perfect.
Sheri, yeah, because and there is an account that I'm going to have to find now. Of course, now that I'm looking for it, I will never find it. But the dog does swear with the buttons, and it's hysterical, and I love it.
That's too funny.
It is too funny. So how did you go from a whole life in academia to what you're doing now? What was that bridge that got you there?
Oh, the bridge wasn't one that I chose at all. The bridge was kind of like forced on me, and I'm so thankful for that. So I was working in academia for 5 years. My commute, because of where I live, it was a very far commute. So it was 3 hours every day. I recognized I was burnt out. I was tired. I was low energy. I was frustrated. I was irritable. However, I was very much stuck in the prestige of being a professor and all these people looking up to me. And I was speaking at national conferences and being invited to speak at statewide conferences. I felt so important. And at the same time, I felt so empty inside because it wasn't my true self. And after a period of time, I got more tired and more tired and more tired. And then on my way home from work one day, it was just this average day. I was hit head on by a teenage driver at full speed, and it stopped me in my tracks. I had a near-death experience, and I had a very long physical, emotional, and spiritual recovery, and it was life-changing. Um, and one of the most profoundly impactful, positive experiences of my life.
So for people who may not be familiar with the term near-death experience, could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of research about near-death experience. It's everyone, there are commonalities and there are also differences. So for me, I wasn't in a coma. I wasn't like in medical treatment during my near-death experience. I was just out cold from my car accident. And what usually happens in near-death experience, you hear the white light stories. I had that experience. I saw the white light. I saw the peace. I saw so much beauty. And for me, in front of that was this like very fast, cinematic set of flashbacks from my life. I saw the birth of my children. I saw my wedding. I saw my divorce. And I saw this premonition of my husband, my ex-husband, coming toward me, and he was smiling and coming and sharing this good news. And I'm like, what the heck? I want to go to this white light. Like it was there, but there was like a little veil in front of it. So I was between worlds at that time. On the other side, I could see what was available. For example, there is no race, there is no gender, there is no sense of you have the right morals and you have the wrong morals. You have the right religious beliefs and you have the wrong religious beliefs. None of that existed. And I could see that very clearly. And I wanted to get to it. I wasn't meant to get to it. There was this veil in front of it. And as hard as I tried, I couldn't get over to that other world. And then very loudly from the back seat of my car, which was empty, I was driving by myself, I heard the command, "Get out." Later, I believed that to be the voice of my guardian angel saving my life. I had blunt force trauma. I had a head injury. I had facial injuries. I was a mess. And for some reason, I was able to walk out of that car. I was out for probably 2 to 3 minutes. So not a long time, but long enough to, see what's possible and long enough to know that it wasn't my time. And what makes this story so powerful is in the ambulance on my way to the hospital, my ex-husband called me and I hadn't talked to him for a long time. And he was so happy. And he was telling me that he was getting remarried. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had this premonition, in that time between worlds. And it was then that I realized I don't call myself a psychic, but I'm able to communicate with angels and connect. I primarily work with women. I connect women to their spirit teams and their angels or whatever it is they believe in. And it's just a tremendous gift that I was left with.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I'm curious how your family responded, not just to the situation that you found yourself in, but really the whole shift in your life after.
Well, That is a great question, and no one has asked me that question before. And I have two kids. My kids are adults now. One is 21, one is 23. They understand it. They're supportive. They were there through the physical rehabilitation. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't read. I was a I was a professor who couldn't read. I couldn't stand. I couldn't walk. I spoke with a stutter. Like, I had such weird symptoms. They were there to help me through my recovery. And they also know what I do now. The rest of my family, quite honestly, thinks I'm crazy. They don't accept it. They know that I'm different. But I come from a very religious family, and the acceptance for how I have changed and for what I know to be real for me and for thousands of other women that I work with, it's not there. And it's okay. I've come to accept it. And, when you're talking about divine connections, I believe everyone gets to choose what that looks like for them.
Yeah.
Mhm. And so, Dr. Sheri, am I understanding correctly that before the accident, this was not a gift that you had?
That is a other really good question, Annette, because I did. When I was a kid, I saw my guardian angel at the foot of my bed. And I believe he was there to protect me. And he was very small, he looked like this mosaic. Do you know the old art projects that you used to do at school where you would make the mosaics out of like torn pieces of paper? He appeared like that. Sometimes he was at the foot of my bed, sometimes at the top of the stairs to keep me safe. I grew up in a very tumultuous household. So I knew my guardian angel was there. I was maybe 5 to 8 years old. And then I have 5 siblings. So I would wake them up and I'd be like, guys, there he is. Can't you see him? And they could not see him. So there was a level of shame and self-doubt around that. So I kind of, around 8, 10, 11, I just kind of put that off to the side. And then in my accident, I was reconnected. And it makes me so happy because he's always been there. For members of your audience who know about angels, especially guardian angels, what I have come to learn through my studies is they don't intervene unless you ask or unless it's a life and death situation. So I am forever thankful that my angel intervened and kept me here, so I can share my message and my gifts with others.
Yeah, that is a beautiful story. Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. So well, first, how long did it take you to recover? We're very thankful that you did recover. And then when you were going through that process, is that when you started deciding that there was going to be a different way forward because it's the burnout that sort of landed you in a place where you were weak, right? When you had the accident and you were probably not at your best and strongest.
Yeah, it took me over 9 months to recover.
Wow.
So the sternal fracture and the trauma to my body healed in about 8 weeks. My brain did not heal. About 90% of people with my type of brain injury fully recovered. I was not that 90%. I was the 10% that did not. So I had a lot of therapy,
Yeah.
like 3 times a week for 9 months. And even then, I wasn't at my fullest. And at the same time, I was also very stubborn because when I was getting my degrees, it was like the harder I worked, the faster I got the accolades. The harder I worked, the more recognition I got. So I tried that same strategy
Mm.
with my head injury. And every time I pushed, I set myself back.
Mm.
So my recovery was not linear. I would get, I would make some headway and then push myself and slide back, make some headway, push myself, slide back. And that was the process I was meant to go through, because what it taught me is that hustle, grind, and burnout is never worth it. That's the lesson I learned, and I'm so thankful for that lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, what we're taught is that we're in control.
Mm.
And what we learn when we go through something like this, we're not in control. Not only are we not in control, we have it's impossible for us to ever be in control.
Mm.
And so to resign ourselves to release that control and offer it to, spirit or higher power, or to just be in awe of somehow this is going to work out in the way that it's meant to. That is not something that comes easy, because we're not taught that way. And so these types of experiences, I think, are really important for us to really learn to just sit and be.
It's so hard to sit and be. That is one of the hardest things for high achieving women to do, but it is so necessary. When I think of self-care, I don't think about bubble baths and lighting a candle. I think about sitting and being and letting myself feel my feels, getting it out on paper. Sometimes I go out into my car and I just scream because it's a safe place. Nobody can hear me. Letting all of that stagnant energy move through. And you're right, we are not taught that. And because we're not taught that, what worked for me is not complete surrender at first. That seemed like too much of a gap for someone who was very like, oh, I have to control this and I should be getting better and I should, it's been 6 months and I'm still not where I should be. For me, it was just being willing to loosen my grip. What happens if I don't hold on to my desired outcome so tightly?
Mm.
And when I loosened my grip, what I found was what was waiting on the other side of control was so much better than what I even could imagine for myself.
Mm. And I heard you say that magic, maybe it should be a curse word, is the should word, right? Because
Yes.
that is, I think that's the soundtrack to a lot of women's internal conversation. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I have to do this. I have to do that. So now that you know what it's like to let go, what can you tell the rest of us who are maybe still pressing play on that should soundtrack every single time?
Oh my gosh. Here's the thing about the should soundtrack, it leads to shame. I mean, that is the recipe for shame. So when we say like we should, it disrespects our right to have boundaries. It leads to shame. And so many times that shame isn't even ours. It's pushed on us from people who can't accept our boundaries or who won't accept our boundaries. So I love that. I think it is such an important lesson. If you can even one time press pause on the should, you feel very uncomfortable, but then that discomfort leads to lightness. And if you do it enough times, it helps you trust yourself. It helps you respect yourself. It makes saying no a complete sentence that you don't have to apologize for. And it releases this heavy burden on our shoulders from assuming the shame from our kids, our families, our jobs, our friends, and they don't mean to do those. They don't mean it. It's just part of our cultural conditioning. So if I am going to give someone a self-care tip, it's going to be to stop shooting yourself, because that's where the freedom lies. I mean, to have this feeling of lightness, because you have the ability now to change the shoulds to, do I really want to do this?
Yes.
And if the answer is no, that's it. If the answer is yes, then go ahead and do it. It gives you the authority and the agency to create the life that you're meant to live, because you're trusting your intuition instead of doing what everyone thinks you should do.
Annette and I have been having this exact conversation
For sure.
for a few weeks now, right? Because we are each other's accountability, right? And so we'll if we get asked something, we'll call the other one and say, "Oh, I really don't want to do this, but I just got asked, and I don't know that I can say no. Why not?"
Exactly.
Right? And what I've noticed, at least in our back and forth, is that we are more concerned about disappointing somebody else than disappointing ourselves.
Yes. Yes. And I think this people-pleasing tendencies that we have is really ego-driven. And ego isn't bad. I know ego has a bad connotation. I don't mean like that at all. Intuition, when we're really listening to our inner voice, our higher power, our angels, our divine team, whatever it is you believe in, you get this feeling of, ooh, like you get this very split second moment, like, oh, that sounds like fun. I want to do that. Where the ego is like, I don't really want to do this, but I don't want to disappoint them. And how am I going to look to them if I say no? There's a tremendous difference. The intuition, I think, is tricky for women because it comes in such a split second moment that sometimes we're too busy to even notice it. So that's where the slowing down and just being comes into play. And even if you are faced with a decision, should I do this? Should I not do this? Sitting and maybe telling someone, let me think about that. I'll get back to you, will give you time to really tune into yourself and pay attention. Like, do I have a pit in my stomach? Do I have a lump in my throat? Is my head throbbing? Those are signs from your body, like you should say no. Where if you feel this like giddy excitement, like, you're just falling in love with somebody, like that kind of like, oh, that sounds like fun, then that is an invitation from your body to say yes. At least that's how I view it.
And one of the things that we talk often about is that it's often women who create the dynamic that prevents other women from saying no. So in other words, as women, we don't support another woman when she stands up and says, I can't, I won't, I don't want to, I don't have time for this. I've made a different commitment. My path is moving in a different direction. Whatever the reason is, as women, we often don't accept that from another woman.
And what a shame.
Mm-hmm.
I just think what a shame, because we are all sort of in this same world having similar experiences. And imagine how empowered we would be if we did support each other and said, Sandra just said no, and I support her 100%. I would say this, if you are not supported by the women in your circle, are those women really in your circle?
Mm.
Because if someone does accept your boundary and no means no, and this isn't right for me at this time, I think every woman deserves to be surrounded by other women who are supportive and uplifting rather than leading to that heavy shame, which feels like such a weight on the shoulders. That's my opinion.
We share it.
Yeah.
We share it. And really on this program, what we talk often about is that when we tend to speak about hidden biases, people think we're really talking about men holding women to a different standard. And what we're trying to expose is that those biases and those expectations sometimes come from very unlikely places, including other women who are the ones who set the challenge by holding women to standards they don't want to be held to.
I agree with that. I think that's a really important point. And you see it all the time. You see it on social media, particularly with this fangirl culture. And one thing I'm not willing to do in social media is get into a bikini and flaunt around to get validation from other people. And I think that is one example of how we are conditioned to outsource our power.
Yes.
Our power is our divine wisdom. Some of us are creative. Some of us have this, like, I have this matriarch energy. How different would life be if we accepted the differences amongst ourselves instead of trying to push to the front of the line for external validation, oftentimes from people you don't even know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that comes from unhealed versions of the divine feminine.
And so when you were healing from your traumatic injury, getting your life back, is that the lessons that you learned from that process? Is that what you teach to other women now?
Yeah, it is. I teach them how to recognize the roles they're playing for other people. How I call it burning the script. You don't have to lead the life that they told you to lead.
Yeah.
I teach about divine rebellion. So it's exactly what we're talking about, having the courage to stand up and say no. And not, I can't do it, because you could. I don't want to do that.
Yes.
Exactly. It's like setting those boundaries. And then finding out who you are separate from who they told you they were. And then you can live your life. I call it the unscripted life, the unscripted woman. Then you can lead your life without the rule book and those scripts that they gave you. And that's what I teach women.
Yeah. And let me say that I think every woman gets there, right? So listen, I'm of a certain age and it's been a while for me to get here. But how can we encourage this kind of curiosity and this kind of self-advocacy much, much earlier for young women and girls? How can we nurture it in younger women and girls? If we're mothers, how can we make sure that our daughters understand that there's all these pressures, but we don't have to succumb to them to be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Young women, especially, like, my daughter's Gen Z, I'm Gen X. I feel like I hate to put people in boxes, but I'll just do it for a moment. I feel like Gen X is the generation that really has taken responsibility for generational patterns and ancestral wounds and done their healing work. And if they haven't done their healing work, they're in process, or they're curious about it, or they're willing to explore it.
Yeah.
Gen Z, they've got it. They're not putting up with it. Like, they're just not. And I feel hopeful because of that. I feel like we have done the healings. We have raised our daughters differently. And now they get to reap the rewards of all the times. I'm going to speak for myself, not for everybody. All the times I screwed up. I screwed up so many times. I made so many bad decisions, even though I knew I shouldn't make those decisions. And now, through honest conversations and storytelling, I think that's how we heal the wounds of the feminine. But I honestly think, from what I see, Gen Z is not having it. And good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, I was telling Sandra earlier today that I just finished listening to Kamala Harris's new book, 107 Days. And she talks about her campaign, which was 107 days long. But at the end, she does quite a few acknowledgments, thanking her staff, her campaign team. But she thanks Gen Z.
Yes.
And she talks about how they're different, and that if we want a different world, we have to really put our faith in what they've got coming up for us. And, you know, I think it's really true. I think it's an unestimated generation of people, and I think we're going to be able to count on them. So
Oh,
kind of
I
exciting.
agree. I didn't know that was in her book. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. I believe that to my core. I see it. I feel it spiritually. They are saying no more. And they are not following the traditional career route. They are
Yes.
not. They are showing up messy if they need to. I have tremendous hope in our future, because Gen Z is that first generation of women who is coming up, and they don't have the same social conditioning wounds that we had to overcome.
Yeah, less baggage.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe just more exposed baggage, right? They saw it for themselves, probably at the same time that we were seeing it, because I'm Gen X too. So
yeah,
yeah,
they're very insightful. They see the
yes.
differences in the generations, and they are very, as a group, very celebratory of how they're not like this, they're not like this, they are like this. They are very accepting, very open, very empathetic, very emotionally intelligent. And I'm going to be honest, my daughter taught me so much about how to be that way. So I can say, you know, we've done the healing work to make it easier for them, but they are teaching us too. And I think that is just beautiful.
I often say my daughter saved my life.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wanted to be a different parent to my children than my parents were to me. And I don't mean that I don't mean to imply by that they that they were bad. I'm simply saying, you know, that they were wounded by their parents, right? So I was wounded as a result of that. And whether it was intentional or not, I was still wounded. So I wanted to do better, which meant embracing and understanding how I really felt about myself, and really challenging myself to look at what has been passed down to me through generations in a different way.
Yeah, I love that. And that insight is what changes lineages. It's beautiful.
On a very funny level, I have a son who likes to, I have twin boys, and I have a son who likes to poke and prod. And one day we were driving and he said to me, Mom, you made a lot of mistakes, and here they are. And he laid them out to me. And Annette knows exactly who I'm talking about. And I said to him, well, the beauty of being a parent is that you get to make the decisions, right? So my parents made decisions, and from my perspective, they made some pretty big ones that were not good. And as my son, you're looking at me and saying, you made some mistakes, Mom. And I'm thinking, okay, but I did them out of love and what I thought was best. So guess what? When you have your children, you get to make all the mistakes. And like 40 years from now, when you're sitting there and your children tell you you messed up, you can say, you know what? That's the beauty of being a parent. And all I would tell you is, I at least started saving when you were born. So you have a college fund or a therapy fund, like it was your choice on how you wanted to use it.
Right.
I didn't either.
Well, I love that so much because I have a son too, and we actually have very deep conversations, and I love that we can now be transparent with those tricky and sometimes triggering subjects. I know I have conversations with my son and I tell him why I did things certain ways. I apologize when I know that it was something that hurt him deeply. And through those conversations and that storytelling and sharing generational patterns, I think we're crafting timelines and stories that make sense to our kids. And because of it, they're not holding on to the baggage that we had to. Because my generation, we didn't talk about it. There were family secrets. You don't talk about these things. This stuff doesn't go outside the family. And now, through storytelling and through honest discussions, we're able to heal a lot of those family patterns. So I love that.
So important. Yes.
Yeah. And I love too that there's not very many places for those secrets to hide anymore, right? You take your DNA test, you trace your genealogy online, and all these things that used to be well-kept family secrets, even if the people are gone, are now coming out, and people are bringing them to the forefront, shedding light on it. And I think it's helping everybody see, like, oh, there was something different about us always. We weren't all imagining it, even though they didn't talk about it. So yeah, technology is helping us be a better version of ourselves sometimes, and helping expose those things that were perhaps well hidden.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And we talked about shame and carrying burdens early on in this conversation. When the secrets come out, it can be painful. It requires healing and repair, but the weight is gone.
Yes.
Secrets have no place if we're moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Really is.
So one question about your healing journey, if we could go back there for a moment. Annette and I know several people who had life experiences similar to yours, maybe not as severe in that they didn't have near-death experiences, but certainly they had brain injury, trauma. And that there comes a point where it's really difficult for medical science or the medical industry to really do anything to help somebody heal beyond where they're at. And that's when people usually find alternative therapies.
Yes.
And I'm curious, on your journey towards healing, at what point did that question or that line for you between science and mysticism or spirituality or energy, where did that come in your healing journey?
And I know a lot of people struggle with this. The thing with a brain injury is, for me, I had other bones that were broken. So you can kind of immobilize those bones. They heal in a few weeks. You rest them because it is so painful to move, right? So if you have a broken arm, you put it in a cast, 6 weeks, you're good to go. When you hurt your brain, the only time it rests is when you sleep. But brain injuries cause sleep disturbances, so sleep becomes this luxury that if you get it once in a while, you're so I remember being so excited, like I can sleep, because most of the time it's your nervous system is so out of sync while it's trying to heal that you just can't sleep. And about 6 months into my recovery, I was really frustrated that I wasn't getting better. I still had a lot of neck pain, shoulder pain. My balance was terrible. I am a speech therapist. I was very aware I was speaking with a stutter, and it was embarrassing. I couldn't go back to work and lecture because of my disfluencies. And then I really couldn't read either. And all of those things seemed insurmountable. So I stuck with the therapies that helped those symptoms. But deeper down, there was embarrassment, there was anxiety, the sleep. I wasn't willing to take a pill for the rest of my life to sleep. So that's where I started to study my own recovery with the same rigor that I used to study for my doctorate. I kept a journal, and I still have them, about what worked, what didn't. I became certified in yoga. I became a certified somatic practitioner. I became certified in breath work. I became certified in meditation, Reiki, all of the things. So I think I'm going to use the word I want to use, the lie of traditional medicine is you have to go through these Western modalities and take a pill. And if they don't work, we've done the best we can. There are so many more options. And I'm not saying by any means, if your doctor tells you to take medication, please take your medication. For me, there are so many other modalities. And this is when self-trust comes in. Yoga was not something I had ever practiced before, but I noticed that it was increasing my confidence. I learned how to do a headstand after I had a concussion. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm like on my head. And it increases your self-esteem, and you think like, oh, if I can nail that, I can do this next thing. With the breathing and the meditation, it's like I feel so anxious and dysregulated, and 20 minutes of meditation, I feel calm and collected. So it doesn't solve everything, and it's not a long-term fix, but it's become part of my daily, I don't want to call it self-care routine. At this point, it's my daily maintenance routine. It's kind of like when you're putting your makeup on. I don't do a very lot of makeup, but you've got your toner, you've got your moisturizer, you've got your SPF, and you've got your foundation and all of the setting spray. It's the same way with these other modalities that keep us going. I've got my meditation, I've got my yoga, I've got walks in nature, I've got animals. When I'm dysregulated, I have one cat who knows I'm dysregulated. She comes up on my chest and she purrs. And that is it's so healing. And there's research around that. So people call it woo. I don't think of it as woo. I think of it as outside the confines of Western medicine. So for people who are struggling with head injury, I would encourage to try some things. It's kind of like try them on and see if they fit. If they fit, keep them in your toolbox. And if they don't fit, feel free to just return them. You know what I mean? Because just because they say you have reached your maximum doesn't always mean that that's true. It just means you've reached their maximum from what modalities they can provide.
Yes. I agree with that. Lots of different things you can work on that are outside of what would traditionally be thought to be successful.
And do you have to go get a yoga cert? No, I go above and beyond because I'm just going to go all in. But you can go to a yoga class. You know what I mean? Go get a massage. Go just spend. There's something so magical about a Reiki session or a massage session. And it's not because it is the cure. It's because you have this dedicated time of an hour with no phone, with someone caring for you in a very safe and quiet place where you know you're held and you're safe. That to me is the magic of these different modalities.
Agreed. Yes. So much agreed. So Dr. Sheri, tell us a little bit more about how we can connect with you and where we can find more information.
Sure. I have a website. It's sherilake.com. And I have my Instagram handle is Dr. Sheri Lake. And I share lots of tips about burnout, about self-care, about the angels, about the divine. So that is the best place to reach me. And I have a couple of freebies on my website. I have a free quiz and lots of resources that are available to women. And if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out, I will answer emails. I will answer DMs. So please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about this and help people along their healing journeys. I think the beauty of being a woman who has done the healing work is I go first and then I get to help the people that are coming behind me. So I encourage your listeners to reach out if they feel called.
I love this. Thank you so much. I could keep going until tomorrow talking with you. Annette knows that I'm not lying. Like I really
Thank you so much for sharing your experience, first of all, and being so honest and transparent about it. And then secondly, I love that you say you reach back and help somebody else that's going through the same thing, because that is also extremely healing to careers, lives, women in general. So thanks again, Dr. Sheri Lake, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Exposing the Hidden Reality. If something hit home or made you snort laugh, tell us.
Seriously, we love hearing from you. Message us, tag us, or send us coffee. We love coffee.
And hey, leave a review. It helps more women find us and boosts our egos.
Which are like fragile, like suspiciously fragile.
True. All right, until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and if all else fails,
blame the dog.
See you
next time.
Wait, did we stop recording?
No, we're still here. You have to push the red button.
Red button. Cool. Just eternal podcast.
Bye.
Bye.